radius. Does everybody know you're doing these notes? Take the time to look at them, okay? Because we're looking at the distances between the points on the circle and the center. So this is going to be weird, not for the recording, because I'm going to keep going. But we're going to look. Okay, so here's our circle, all right? And when we have this horizontal line, it's represented by x minus h, okay? Because this is our center, we made a right triangle, and so that becomes x minus h. And if we move the point B on the circle around, you can see that your side lengths change the position. It gets smaller or fatter depending on which way. And so when we use Pythagorean theorem, then it tells us what our radius is. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go back to here. So I made my right triangle, and my distance is going to be y minus k. And I'm going to say this is my point C. Okay? Does everybody understand why I have like y minus k and x minus value is going to be 8,4. Okay? So to find the length of AC, that's going to be this part here. I'm going to say if it's x minus h, well, h is my center point, and so I'm going to say, use my x values, 8 minus 5, and that gives me 3. Okay? To find the vertical line, if I say it's y minus k, then I use my y values, and I'm going to have of 8 and 4, my y values, so 8 and 4. So that gives me a distance of 4. That gives me a distance of 3. Now, question for you. What's another way that you could have done it? To find, because we're looking for the distance of those lines. What's another way to have done it? Huh? We're going to use Pythagorean theorem to find our radius. But if I wanted to know the distance, since they're vertical and horizontal, I could just count them too. All right? But we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem now to find the distance from the center of the circle and the edge. And so that becomes our radius. Go to the bathroom and get, that won't, go to the bathroom and get towels. All right, so since our radius is the same around the circle, that means all points are equidistant from the center. And the distance between the center and the point is always the radius. Okay, so our horizontal distance, all right, which was our green part, is the x minus h. minus k we used our center point, whoops, helps if you can see, as h and k. And so that means that our equation of a circle is going to be x minus h squared, y minus k squared, and that's equal to r squared. Okay? So the only thing you need to know to be able to write the equation of the circle is the center point and your radius. So the center and radius. Okay? Good so far? Okay, so if we want the equation of a circle, we have a radius of 7, and this is our center. The formula is x minus something, which is the h value, plus y minus something, which is my k value, is equal to my radius squared. Good so far? Plug and chug. So my center is 4, negative plus y plus 1 squared is equal to 49. How did I go from a negative 1 to a positive 1 for my center on the y? Because the two negatives make the positive. Perfect. Good so far? Question. 7 squared.
Oh, you get 7.
Because 7 is my radius. Okay, good. All right. Yes, there's more. Okay, this time we have an equation with a center of negative 2, 6. Okay. And it passes through the point 10, 1. Okay, so if I make a segment here, what is that segment called? It is from the center to the edge. What's that called? The radius. Perfect. All right, so I don't know what my radius is, so I'm going to use Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to make a right triangle. And then if I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for this length. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for that length. And so 5 squared plus 12 squared is going to give me r squared. Squared. Perfect. And so 169 is equal to r squared, but I need the radius. How do I find my radius? Do not divide by 2. What do you do, Maisie? Square root it. And what's the square root of 169? 13. Okay, so my radius is 13. So my equation, because I have the center is -2, 6, and my radius is 13, my equation's going to be x plus 2 squared y minus 6 squared is equal to 169. Find the midpoint to divide it in half, which gives me a point of 4, 5. What's another way that you've done it? You could have made a right triangle of the whole thing, found the diameter, then divide it by 2. Either way works. All right, so my distance, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 squared plus 4 squared gives me my radius squared. Okay. So 4 plus 16 gives me radius squared. So what's my radius? It's not divided by 2. It's square root. So it's just square root of 20. Because it isn't a perfect number, we can leave it like that. Okay? All right, so how did I find this 4, 5 center point? But how did I know that was the center? How do you find the midpoint of a line? Remember your midpoint formula? Use your midpoint formula to find it. All right, so my equation is going to be x minus 4 squared equal to y minus 5 squared is equal to 20. Good? Easy peasy? Does this make more sense? Okay. All right, let's do one more. I have an equation. This time I want to graph it. Okay? What do you need to know to graph a circle? You need the center. Do I know what the center is from my equation? Yeah. What's my center? If my formula is x minus h squared and y minus k squared equals r squared, what's my x value going to be for my center? -1. Remember to, okay? And for y, it's going to be 3. And what's my radius going to be? If this is r squared, what's my radius? Because r squared equals 16, so r is going to be 4. Because the square root of 16 is 4.
What? I thought you had the what? I thought you had the square root of
No, that's to get my, I have the, this is a different one. I have the equation. So now I just need to find my radius. Because here's my equation. So the formula for the equation is r squared. So r squared was 16. So to find just the radius, I square root the 16 to get a radius of 4. Good? All right, let's plot it. So I'm going to go over -1 and up to 3. There's my center. Okay? Now, if it's a radius of 4, I just count out 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to go in straight line, my vertical and horizontal, where I can just count it. Okay? And then that gives me a rough graph of my circle. Okay, one more. The center of my circle is shifted 2 units left and 5 units down. Flashback to translations. What's the notation to write that? What kind of transformation are we doing? Slide. What's another word for slide? Translation. What's the code for translation? Capital T. Perfect. And how am I going to write the notation if I'm shifting 2 units left? Over 2. -2, and then I'm going 5 units down. -5. Perfect. So over 2, down 2, 3, 4, 5. And so my new center is going to be, what is that? 1, 2, 3, -3, -2. Good.